But we don't know for the first time. It's like we don't have that personal.
And so, like, you know, people expecting to know every detail of our lives when we're not going to say, you know, hi, nice to meet you. Here's everything that's ever gone on.
Of course.
You know, well, it's not the truth. First of all, everything was distorted. And so we feel like our story was not being told. That's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
We've dealt with this. We've taken care of it.
Your parents suggest they're looking into legal action against the parties involved. Would you like to see that?
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Friday, February 11th, and I am making this video late on a Friday night because I put out a post on my Instagram and I promised a video was coming. Then the piece about Josh Duggar dropped, the motion that the government filed in response to his motion for acquittal, and I had to make a video, and I completely changed my format, so it took way extra time to actually film and edit. And here I am now with a video I promised, and I still didn't get to all of my Sister Wives content that I had in my pocket, along with some of the stuff that I was doing with the LDS stuff and the Kingstons that I've been working on all week. So someday when I have enough time, I'll get to everything. But this is something that I know you guys are going to want to know about because a lot of you saw Derick Dillard show up in my comments. So by now you should know that Derick Dillard sometimes comes onto my Instagram and will respond to comments. He'll like comments. He'll get into, I don't know, he'll kind of snap back at people, clap back or whatever. And I think for the most part, people are pretty respectful to him. And I always tell people, like, if any of the people that are coming on my page are part of the story, just be respectful to them, right? It's not easy to put yourself out there. It's not easy to feel like you have to defend yourself, so just be respectful regardless of what you think of these people. He had left a comment, which I told you guys about a couple days ago, and the comment was related to the Megyn Kelly interview. So Jill did this whole response yesterday where she was really angry about the judge dismissing the case, and she was taking aim at the police chief, about a personal vendetta she felt that they had, which is actually an idea that was planted by Jim Bob Duggar. He talked about this on the Megyn Kelly interview where he claimed that Kathy O'Kelly had it out for Josh, wouldn't shake Josh's hand, said she was a couple weeks from retiring and she had some things that she still wanted to take care of before she retired, and he just figured this was the thing. And the court didn't find there was any validity to that theory. And I think by now you should know that Jim Bob comes up with a lot of red herring, just out off the wall, don't make sense theories that indirectly smear people that are innocent. Okay. People were saying that Jill doesn't have a right to be mad about what happened, and she minimized what Josh said, and so she was on this interview, and because she did the interview, then she shouldn't be complaining because she asserted that it wasn't as big of a deal as it was, and then here she is complaining that it was, or here she is saying that it was a big deal, and there was some victim blaming going on for sure. So he showed up and he said this: "Please don't comment about things you know nothing about. We were not paid a single cent, and the whole ordeal was borderline duress and coercion. We weren't even being paid for the show that we had to film tens of hours per week for. So what makes you think we would have received any pay or perks from this? The opposite is true. It was devastating. So think before you speak." So he was clapping back at one of my commenters who said that Jim Bob must have had a payday for the Fox News interview. So I reached out to Derick privately. I asked him publicly and he didn't respond. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll ask him in DMs. So I sent him a message and I said, "Hey, Derick, you know, I saw you commenting on my post and I just wanted to reach out and see if you could answer this question for me." And so I flat out asked him, I said, "Do you know if Jim Bob was paid by Fox for the interview where he and Michelle were interviewed by Megyn Kelly? Was the family paid for that?" And Derick said he had no idea. He said that anything to do with money, Jim Bob has always been very secretive from the kids. So if Jim Bob received a dime, he has no clue. So then I asked him if he could expand upon what he meant in regards to this coercion, or the fact that Jill didn't do this, like, with her, like, again, it was almost like against her will. I said, like, you know, Jill was in this interview and she sounded very scripted, and it almost sounded like she just had talking points. My question was this: did Jill have a script when she was there? She kept saying that no one forced her to be there. That was kind of the thing that kept coming to my mind. She kept saying, no one forced me to be there. And he says, I'm pretty sure, but I honestly don't remember 100%. It was nearly 7 years ago. I do know that she was heavily coached to stay within a certain narrative. And I said, that seemed evident in how she spoke. And he said, I wouldn't call it voluntary. So he claimed that she was coached by Jim Bob, she and Jessa were coached by Jim Bob to specifically stay into a narrative, which the narrative was that it was mild, inappropriate touching, that they didn't know what happened to them, that Josh was the one that told his parents and they only found out about it from their parents, and that Josh was just a teen that had made a mistake, and that he isn't this horrible person, and that their parents did everything that they should do. And then they also spoke about how the documents had been released illegally, and Jessa kind of talked about how there must be some sort of vendetta against them.
Here.
Well, and the Freedom of Information Act is not, you can't FOIA juvenile cases. Everybody knows that. And it's probably some hokey pokey going on there. I don't know what the whole deal was. I mean, I'm guessing
there may be an agenda. I mean, I know that the tabloids that released this.
So the fact that he says they were coached makes me feel like, okay, all of these years, every time I've watched it, I have felt so uncomfortable, because I felt like the two of them were always looking at each other like, don't say the wrong thing, don't say the right thing, don't, you know, be careful, do the right thing. And now it's just like, man, the lengths that he will go to try to control a narrative. I asked him if he would be able to expand upon what tactics Jim Bob used in order to influence the girls to go online and to defend to go on this interview and to defend their brother and the parents. And he said, like, nobody handcuffed her to the chair and made her speak, but he said that in terms of, like, the truth of what all happened and what went into that day and the months leading up to it and afterwards and all of the mess that occurred around that, he said that they are planning to write a book, and so they don't want to share all of the details because they want to just put everything out in one fall swoop through a book, and they hope they can do that soon. So they have a book that they would like to write where they can just share their whole experience about everything that happened, which I think would be good for them to get their truth out and to get out what they feel they need to get, and to get out what they feel like they need to get out. I say this a lot when I tell you that Jim Bob is very controlling of what his kids say and do, and how he likes to control their platforms and control how they use their social media. If Derick telling me privately that she was coached and coerced to do this interview and then told basically what to say, I hope that makes you believe what my sources say about Jim Bob coaching his kids about what to put on their social media and how they should speak about the family and how to sort of gaslight or get away from the distractions of whatever, you know, the bad press that's happening. It's actually scary to me how much he gaslights his own children, to the point that they are willing to lie for him, to the extent that I don't even know if the kids realize that they're lying to him, and I don't know if the girls don't even realize that there's not a personal vendetta. Like, part of me wonders if they really believe it, or if Jim Bob has lied to them so much that they believe it because he said that. Like, if your dad, the whole life that you've had, has been telling you something, and you were told that he's a God-fearing man and he would never lie and he would never lead you astray, if he were to tell you and you find that out, that it was a lie, like, how else do you trust anything else? and then you went on TV and lied. It's actually so disconcerting if you think about it, and it's actually kind of scary. Like, how do you trust anything that any of them say? My hope is that Jill can move forward and, you know, find some level of happiness and can find some level of healing in all of this, and perhaps, you know, putting a book out, getting her whole story out will be a good part of that. I also hope she continues on in her therapy and continues with her disconnection from the family. And it also helps me understand further why Jessa might be continuing to always be the mouthpiece for the Duggars. Like, what kind of manipulation or threats do you think he could be telling to Jessa to make her defend them constantly? Or is he giving her, you know, I'll give this to you, or I'll do that for you if you say this? Or does she just truly believe it? And why didn't Josh ever have to say anything? Why did he put his girls out up on a public platform? And to everyone that says that they had to go public, they did not have to go public. The county and the city never released their names. Their identities were redacted. Yes, you could discern who they were, but they never released their names. We never knew the details of what happened to each daughter. And those interviews were incompatible with what they said in that interview. So even though they said it was all settled and done, and they said that nothing major happened, they lied on TV for their dad, at their dad's direction, according to Derick. That's disturbing. I was actually reading an article from Deadline at the time, and Megyn Kelly had told Deadline that Jim Bob at the time was very aware that his show was on the chopping block and that something needed to be done to save the show. And so she felt like this interview was his last-ditch effort to save their show. So he hung his girls out to dry and coerced them and manipulated them to lie for him to save his show. His own daughters, who were victims of Josh, he used on national television to out themselves as victims of SA to save his show. That's despicable, if that's true. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.